Well, hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton, and we come to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. Well, I don't know about you folks, but it's almost like I'm expecting space aliens to land any minute now because the entire world has gone bozo. Between the heat and the COVID and election time, it's like, and the fires now, you just go, holy cow, are we ever going to get back to normal, whatever that was? Well, on top of it, we have a whole bunch of legislative activity coming up that has now passed, and we are hearing about it. And we're hearing about what they want us to believe about it, and then we're hearing about what other people believe is true about it. And it is a very complex subject, especially for a radio show. But I'm going to wade in there today because if you're listening to this show, you care about your kids or your grandkids or your community kids if you're a corporation. And some stuff has happened on Capitol Hill that I'm telling you just makes my head spin. Not that I'm surprised and like that, but it is literally going to change your lives. And of course, both sides of the aisle have some sort of argument about how it's going to play out. It's one of those kinds of things. You don't know what's in it till you vote for it kind of deal. And depending on your perspective. Now, Million Kids is not a political organization. We are a public benefit nonprofit organization. And our goal, and this radio show, by the way, is brought to you by Million Kids. We're not a million kids. We're not 1 million kids. We're just simply Million Kids. And that is because more than million kids are trafficked each year throughout the world. And so our whole thing, the reason we get up every day and do what we do is to try to keep your kids safe from predators. And I'll tell you, it gets more and more challenging every day. I've been in this business now 12 years, went into it in my retirement, and we've now trained over 400,000 people. And before I get started in all this legislation, I want to give a big shout out to a couple of people that have just made the difference for Million Kids. One of them is BMW of Riverside, my friend Chuck Hughes over there, and Gidget. They're just amazing people. John Horgan over there in the service department. And they held a program last week that if you drove a BMW, then they would donate. And I just drove down and got the check. And I just want to say thank you to BMW of Riverside. It makes a huge difference. These are the toughest days of a nonprofit's lives. Many of you have heard me say that on March 12th, remember that? That's like 6 months ago. March 12th, we actually went out and made a speech and came home, and every live presentation I had scheduled to the end of the year, which was well over 100 of them, had canceled because of the COVID and the social distancing requirement. Now, many of them I've now done by Zoom, and others have put off till 2021 in hoping of having a life. But it is an interesting thing to all of a sudden, as a nonprofit, have your entire source of income kind of devastated, where you actually, our whole thing was to do education, prevention, and intervention, go out, do the training, sell the books, and people would donate, and amazingly fine people. So I thank you, BMW of Riverside, for holding that public event and donating to our charity. I also want to give a big shout out to Doris Anderson, who is a real estate agent over in Upland. She works for Remax Realty in Upland. And if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, then please call Doris Anderson at Remax Realty. Every time she sells a house and closes, I don't even know it's coming. It just arrives in the mail, a check for $500. And I so much appreciate you, Doris. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your concern for other people. And I appreciate your concern for wanting to keep kids safe from predators. I really wish more people on Capitol Hill had that kind of concern. So, what is happening here? We've had 3 bills go through in Sacramento this week that just make me want to puke. I can't think of a nice Christian word, so we'll do the best we can. But they are major bills that have major impact on your life. And this is not a political show, but I want you to understand that these bills, you better educate yourself on them because it will change your child and your grandchild's life. And we need to be aware of what's in them. I am going to take them one by one. We're going to start out with the Senate bill here, 145. Then we will move to Assembly Bill 1145, and then back to Senate Bill 384. So all of that sounds like numerical soup, I know. But I want you to understand what is going on there. Most of these bills have been brokered or put in by a Mr. Weiner that is there. I've got his name somewhere, his full name. Scott Weiner, Senator Scott Weiner, and Democrat from San Francisco. And he started these bills. He is openly gay. And his position on these bills is to give some protection to the LGBTQ community. However, it has far-ranging implications to it. And so I want you to understand what is happening because I doubt seriously that until recently you even had an idea that this was going on. So we're going to start with Senate Bill 145. Now, you'll have to be careful with me a little bit here. I'm doing the best I can, but this is a lot of research that I have done on this. It depends on whose side you're on, but Senate Bill 145 is, in this case, a bill. Let me take, that's 1145, 384. I've got them all right here. This bill is co-sponsored, by the way, by the Los Angeles County District Attorney Office and the Equality of California office. And what happens in here is that it would exempt from mandatory registration under the Act a person convicted of certain offenses involving minors if the person is not more than 10 years older than the minor, and if that offense is the only one requiring the person to register. So you're starting to get the idea here that this has to do with the sex registry business, and all of this does for what it's worth. It also says on here, and I need to be careful because this is a family show, but it says the bill states non-forcible sodomy, oral copulation, and sexual penetration with a minor do not, let me say that again, do not require mandatory sex offender registration unless there is a 10-year gap between the minor and the other person. SB 145 would allow a sex offender who lures a minor with the intent to commit a felony the ability to escape registering as a sex offender as long as the offender is within 10 years of age of the minor. No specification is made as to whether the sexual offender is straight or LGBTQ. So the article I'm reading here, and I have stacks and stacks of articles, both from the left and from the right. This one is more from the right. But what happens here is that it doesn't apply to anyone under the age of 14. In essence, what we're talking about here is anyone 14 or over who is engaged in sex, whether it is sodomy, oral copulation, or sexual penetration. Any of that, if they're over 14 and the partner is 10 years or more in the range of that person, that they are not required to register as a sex offender. Now, it isn't hard and fast. It is true that judges get to make a decision, and that's what Weiner falls back on. Okay, he's saying, oh, no, it's not automatic. The judge gets to make the decision. Well, I've been here before on this sex offense thing when the judge makes the decision, especially Proposition 57 and the 10,000 of you that signed something or sent money, and it will change everything. My name is Opal Singleton. This show is Exploited Crimes and Technology. We're up against a break. We'll be right back.
This message is all about Million Kids, the organization that helps locate missing kids throughout Southern California and educates to keep kids safe from predators. Million Kids educates school administrators, teachers, parents, and teenagers how predators identify a potential victim and the methods they use to recruit innocent kids. BMW of Riverside is a proud supporter of Million Kids. Visit BMW of Riverside at the Adams Street exit off the 91 freeway or click bmwofriverside.com.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Hey, there are many good restaurants in the Inland Empire, but really great restaurants are hard to find. Let me tell you about the Toasted Barrel in Corona. It's a trendy, upscale steakhouse with great pasta and seafood. It's a fantastic choice for birthdays and anniversaries or just that special night out with your loved one and friends. Inland Empire magazine has awarded them Best Restaurant and Brunch for the past 3 years. The owners, Ed and Shirley, are friendly and attentive to your needs. If you're a prime rib connoisseur, this place is for you. Go ahead and try it out. The Toasted Barrel, located at 1300 El Sobrante Road in Corona. Or Google them at Toasted Barrel to make reservations. I guarantee you, you're going to love it. Be sure and tell Ed and Shirley that Opal sent you. It will be a night you'll never forget.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and we are talking about several new bills that have passed this week that are just really, really concerning. The one that I'm currently talking about was sponsored by Senator Scott Weiner. I don't know if he's related to Anthony or not. I didn't check that out. But Mr. Weiner is openly gay, and he's saying that these bills are really geared towards protecting the LGBTQ community. Well, I get what he's saying there. Quite frankly, the LGBTQ community is very violated, and they're very trafficked. They are not as willing to report or come forward, and those cases are very difficult. But I get that there is a problem. I don't get how solving it this way is going to be helpful. I was interested in an article that I read on this by who wrote this? Alexei Kosov out of San Francisco says California would eliminate a disparity in its statutory rape laws, and critics say it is discriminatory vestige of the historic criminalization of gay sex. Well, this isn't about gays per se. In fact, what will happen here is that the new law says, a judge gets to decide whether to place a man who has vaginal intercourse or other kinds, quite frankly, with an underage teenage girl on the sex offender registry list based on the facts of the case. If it's oral or vaginal or anything other than body parts, I won't get so specific, the adult must register as a sex offender. And it's going on, this is obviously from a left-wing perspective, a relic of a penal code that criminalized those acts until 1975. Although minors cannot, in fact, Weiner's bill would treat all sex acts the same. Although minors cannot legally consent, if a teenager ages 14 to 17 voluntarily had sex with an adult who is less than 10 years older, the judge would have discretion over placing the adult offender on the sex offensive list. Let me point out a couple of things about this. We had Proposition 57. It's been a year and a half ago now. And we did several shows and raised some funding and got some signatures and sent them off to then Governor Brown. On Proposition 57, it was positioned to the public that basically there's a lot of people in our prison that shouldn't be there and we need to get them out. And they made it sound like most of the people in prison just went into a C-store or 7-Eleven and they stole some gum because they were high on drugs. And now they're doing 3 years but they're clean and sober and they ought to go home. Well, those kinds of things I don't have a problem with. But when they write laws indicating specific situations, they write them very broadly, and it never works the way you think it's going to. And that is what happened on Proposition 57. You see, it never once said that sex offenders would be exempt and that sex offenders would not get out early. And in fact, when that was brought up, Kamala Harris, depending on how you want to say it, and your Governor Brown all indicated that this wasn't for sex offenders. This was just simply to release the overload of prisoners in California prisons. Well, it didn't work out that way because what happened is they began to release these people early. And a prisoner, we don't know if it was male or female, filed a lawsuit up in Sacramento saying that everybody was getting out early but him or her, and that they were a sex offender and they were being discriminated against. So guess what? One of those very liberal courts up in Sacramento got Judge Alan Sumner to hold the case. And what happened is he looked at it and said, you know what? You're right. You are being discriminated against, and there's nothing in this bill that says that you are to be admitted. You see, it was another one of those bills where you had to know what was in it before you sign it. And I'm going to tell you, whether you're for the left or whether you're for the right, you better know who you're voting for these days, because there's a lot of sleight of hand going on, and our kids are going to pay the price. So Governor Brown said, well, he had let it go through the appeals court. What he was really saying is, well, I'm on my way out as governor, and we'll turn that over to Gavin Newsom. And we all know how that's going to turn out. And so now you have people in prison who are getting out early, even though you have someone running for vice president of the United States saying that wasn't going to happen. They were going to be tough on crime. But tough on crime turned out to be writing laws in such a way that these people did not have to register as sex offenders or they could get out early. So what is happening in this bill is basically they're saying that if you're over 14 and you give consensual sex and that person is within 10 years of your age, that person cannot be charged with sex offense unless the judge decides differently. Except California is full of liberal judges. And so now where do we go with that? Why is this a concern for me? Because I combat sex trafficking and I see these victims. They are your 14, 15, 16-year-old daughters and granddaughters who go on dating sites and meet young gang guys. You see, gang guys have IT guys. They're spending all their time online. They know exactly how to appeal to our young girls, and our girls get a fantasy relationship and they fall in love. And the next thing you know, they meet up and they're having sex, and he's starting to put her out to make money for him and the gang having sex. That is often how this goes. And these girls, once they're in there and the bloom is off the rose as far as being in love, they start to get beaten. They start to get raped. They start to get sodomized. They are traded amongst gang members. And they will not ask for help because they're drugged and they are brainwashed. And so just a year or two ago, they changed the laws that if they're a minor, we can't even bring them in unless they ask for help to get away from them. But most of them are scared to death and they won't. But now think about this. She's 13, she's 14, 15, 16, 17, which is common. And the pimps are 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. And she's going to go, no, it was consensual. And this is not a sex crime. And so this is going to make sex trafficking a whole lot more difficult. Not impossible, but a whole lot more difficult to help these girls understand where they're at and help get them assistance. So there's all these pros and cons and all these articles I read on here. What is happening is they're using a broad brush to to define and protect a very small group. And it is changing everything. You're going to see the whole thing come down before too long as the porn industry tries to legalize prostitution. And they will tell you, look, it's a harmless act. If a person wants to buy sex and they're an adult, fine. Except what you're finding is many of those kids on those sex ads are not 18. Now, the guys claiming I thought they looked older than their years, doesn't matter. They're still going to pay a price. But they're going to try to come on and say, let's legalize prostitution because a person has a right to sell their own body. Trust me on this, the porn industry is behind it, and California has a huge porn union. And it is big dollars. And it is true whether you are physically having sex with them or whether you are watching a video of them or a live stream where you're talking to them, interacting. And yes, that is the way of the future, is webcam sex, live streaming. Already for many of our teenagers, their Instagram, some of their favorite hashtags are webcam sex or cam girls or young cam girls or things like that. All of that are people, are young people who are under 18. And so how do we ever protect them? Because the next thing you know, the next push, once we get past basically legalizing pedophilia. Now, these people will tell you that is not true. That is an exaggeration. This is never meant to legalize pedophilia. I don't care what it was meant to be. It is happening if you're 14, 15, 16 years old and you are engaged in some sort of sex, especially if it's where you're making money, whether you're doing it yourself or somebody else is taking that out there for webcam or amateur sex, you are being abused. And I have never met a pimp yet that's going to get sweet and kind. Pimps are not Boy Scouts, and legalizing prostitution will not make it a better industry. This is Opal Singleton, Exploited Crimes and Technology. Be right back. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited, Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590, The Answer. Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of Million Kids. I'm also Million Kids serves as the training and outreach coordinator for the Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. What an incredible group of men and women, and how hard they fight to keep your kids safe from predators. By the way, there's also a SAFE team out of DA Hestron's office that does the same thing for online sexual violations. And Riverside County is very, very fortunate to have such a fine group of experts. When the rest of the world are burning police cars and putting cops down, I want you to know you have some law enforcement officers, both men and women. You have a sheriff over there, and the sheriff of Chad Bianco, and you have a DA with Mike Hestron. And by the way, you have the same thing over in San Bernardino. Sergeant Michael Bryan over there heads your task force. And you have people in San Bernardino that have human trafficking task forces. And some of your police departments are really dedicated to it. The folks over at Rancho Cucamonga Police Department, some of my favorites for sure. We've had them on the show. One of these days, I'm going to have Chief Billy Green out of Fontana on. That man's my hero. You all have some amazing men and women that are doing this. Sergeant John Sawyer leads the task force over in Riverside, and just the sheriff department over there are just absolutely going against all odds when things are tough. It's hot. We have COVID. We have all kinds of problems. We have protests at various places. And I want you to say a prayer for them, because these people are fine, fine people who do everything they can to keep your kids safe from predators. The role of Million Kids is to educate you. If you want a Zoom or a live presentation when we're allowed to have those, I hope you'll contact me at Opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. If you're looking for a charity to support, you would not find a better charity than Million Kids, because we are small, but we are mighty, and we are more challenged than we have ever been in our lifetime. But we are going to survive this, and we're going to thrive. And I'll tell you what, I did my report this last month of the activity. I cannot believe the number of cases. More cases of kids playing online, getting violated, running away, missing kids. We operate Million Kids Missing Kids. If you want to get on the list to receive flyers and help us find missing kids, just go to millionkids.org and go on there and register your name so we can send you those. And while you're at it, if you want to donate, we'd love you for it. You might also follow us on Facebook at Million Kids. There are two, by the way. One's a rock band, so don't get rocked up on them. They're smaller than us, but you might get them every now and then. Anyway, I want to get moving along here. I want to talk about Senate Bill 384, because you see, these bills are not in isolation. This one's also by Wiener. You see, what you're seeing is incremental legislation coming on that is changing your life. For instance, the letting sex offenders out early as part of the early release program. And now, as you just saw, saying that consensual sex, if you're over 14 and they're not over 10 years older than them, well, that's okay. It is not necessarily a sex offense. Now, let me back up and say something. I get about the sex registry law. I get that a 17-year-old is having sex with a 16-year-old girl, and it shouldn't be happening, but it does. It's been going on for hundreds of years. And when that happens, I don't see him as a sex offender. But, they have taken that birth and broadened it enormously. And so it is going to make it very difficult for us to help these teenagers. And more teenagers will stay in the life because they are afraid to get out and they are afraid to ask for help. And when we go out there, they're going to say, no, it was consensual. It will be a problem. What is SB 384? This is a bill that will establish 3 tiers of registration on the sex offense registry, for what it's worth, based on criteria. Some for a period of 10 years, 20 years, and then for life, depending on the crime. Now, I get what they're saying. There are people on the sex offense list that's a registry that probably shouldn't be there. I get it. And there are people on there that got on there and changed their lives, and they probably are no longer a risk. I can't remember how many people are on the sex offense list registry here in California, but it's over 100,000. And so it's become unruly. And so what they're saying is they're going to give time limits to sex offenses on here. And it's saying the bill would allow the Department of Justice to place a person in a tier to be determined category for a maximum period of 24 months if his or her appropriate tier designation cannot be immediately ascertained. Well, that ought to be enough to drive a car through, that kind of exception. But they're saying you can be on a temporary one for 24 months until they can figure out how you ought to be classified. So this goes on and on and on. And basically what they're talking about is they're changing the way the sex registry list should be done. So I can see where they're going to go with this, because they're basically going to say, well, she was 14 and he was 21, but they were in love and blah, 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 blah. And, the public's going to go, oh, my gosh, that's sad. There is one more bill that goes with this that is a bit of a real concern on this. In addition to Senate Bill 384. And I would recommend that you look at this. This bill has to do, I'm trying to find this, I have pounds and pounds of research on this. This has to do with mandatory reporting. AB 1145 is what it is. And I can't get my hands on it right now, but it has to do with the mandatory reporting. And I'm going to get it back to you at break here. What I want you to see is that we have just changed everything in our lives, because what is happening now is where the law protected minors, they're basically saying if you're 14 or over, you know what you want to do sexually, and you know if you're consenting, and you know if it's going to be gay sex or backside sex or vaginal sex, and that it's okay if your boyfriend is 24, as long as you're consenting. Now, you can dress this thing up and put it into all kinds of categories. I get that the LGBTQ community is sometimes violated. I get that, and that needs to be fixed. I get that many of our kids are having sex, unfortunately, at a very young age. But to adjust the law down here to say that a 24-year-old can have sex with a 14-year-old and there will be zero repercussions, or it will be up to the discretion of some judge, has really pushed us over the edge as far as I'm concerned. And I am very concerned about how much we're going to be able to keep our kids, your kids, and your grandkids safe from predators. Can these bills be reversed? Not if Governor Newsom signs them and they're going to his desk. These have all been voted on by people that people voted for. Whether you did or not, I don't know. But somebody voted to get these people in office. And what I see here is a whole lot of special interest rigmarole, for lack of a Christian term, on there. But this is serious business, folks. How do you expect us to protect your child? If your girl, who's 15 years old, goes on Discord playing her video game, or your guy gets involved with some girl and they meet up and they decide to have a little sex and it turns out to be a pimp or even worse, a pedophile, and they take some photos of that and the girl goes along with it, and then he says, hey, if you don't give me more photos, I'm going to blackmail you. And then your law enforcement comes out and says, did you do this consensually? She'll say yes. Just say yes, because if not, they're going to blackmail her. And she is not going to believe that somebody's going to stand up for her. And their lives will be changed forever. This is a slippery slope. Actually, this is a mountain avalanche, in my opinion. We are just getting started. We are laying the groundwork here for all kinds of permissive, interactive sex with young people before they have the age and the maturity to understand the lifetime implications of being violated and not asking for help or not telling the truth. This is Opal Singleton, and it is Exploited Crimes and Technology. Be right back.
Real estate sales in the Inland Empire are really hot. Sellers and buyers recognize that these low interest rates will not last. Sean and Colleen at Caldwell Banker Armstrong Properties in Riverside are proud to sponsor this show. They are the best in the Inland Empire. They're fair, honest, creative, and they care about you and your situation. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call Sean and Colleen at 951-529-4066.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Hey, there are many good restaurants in the Inland Empire, but really great restaurants are hard to find. Let me tell you about the Toasted Barrel in Corona. It's a trendy, upscale steakhouse with great pasta and seafood. It's a fantastic choice for birthdays and anniversaries or just that special night out with your loved one and friends. Inland Empire magazine has awarded them Best Restaurant and Brunch for the past 3 years. The owners, Ed and Shirley, are friendly and attentive to your needs. If you're a prime rib connoisseur, this place is for you. Go ahead and try it out. The Toasted Barrel, located at 1300 El Sobrante Road in Corona. Or Google them at Toasted Barrel to make reservations. I guarantee you, you're going to love it. Be sure and tell Ed and Shirley that Opal sent you. It will be a night you'll never forget.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and I so much appreciate you listening to this show. These shows are all archived at millionkids.org. And if you want to share them with people that maybe can't hear them because they're not in the broadcast area, by the way, any of time you can listen to this radio show as it's broadcast live at 3 o'clock on Saturday. You can just go to AM 590. theanswer.com. And if you want to hear the show as it and get it replayed and share it, go to millionkids.org. It's all on there to be archived. So thank you very much for each and every one of you that have waded through this. I know a radio show on various legislature isn't all that exciting, but this is terrifying where we're headed. And I really hope that you will take the time to look at all of these bills that we're talking about. Research them yourself. You can write to me if you want at Opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. So the other bill that went through about the same time is an assembly bill. That would be AB 1145. Now, this has to do with mandated reporting of sex crimes. So you're starting to see what's happening here. They've done Proposition 57. They're starting to let sex offenders out early. They're starting to change the laws. A law came in too long ago that condoms are not used as probable cause in sex crimes. That's going to make it much more difficult for law enforcement to be able to get a search warrant on something like that. These laws are going through all the time. And I look at our officers and wonder why they even try sometimes, because it must be like banging your head against the wall. But they get up and go out. We have over 160 open cases in Riverside County alone of various kinds of sex crimes. And it is serious, serious business. These are very complicated laws and very complicated crimes. And a lot of people are getting hurt, and many of them are our teenagers. Well, AB 1145 has to do with the Mandated Reporting Act. The Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act requires a mandated reporter to report to a specific agency in his or her professional capacity. Existing law provides that child abuse or neglect for these purposes includes sexual assault and other crimes. This bill that's coming through, AB 1145, would provide, here's the change coming on, folks, that sexual assault for these purposes, listen to this, this bill would provide that sexual assault for these purposes does not include voluntary sodomy, oral copulation, or sexual penetration if there are no indicators of abuse, unless that conduct is between a person who is 21 years of age or older and a minor who is under 16 years of age. Now, this doesn't mean that what I talked about before was the actual sex act itself. What they're saying here is it doesn't have to be reported. Mandatory reporting. If she's under 16, then she needs to be reported if she's engaged in that, and if her partner's over 21. That doesn't mean that the law has to respond to it, because as you just saw, the judge gets to determine if it's really going to be a crime. So we have to understand here that our kids are at a greater risk than they've ever been before. As I pray my way through this, and I will tell you, the only way I can be in this business is to pray my way through these things, because, forgive me for getting religious with you, but it's the only way I can do the work I do. God is still on the throne, and God still wins out over evil. And what I see here is that it is more important than ever to parent and grandparent a child to understand who they are, what they stand for, and not let them be easy to be manipulated. How do pimps and predators and pedophiles pick victims? They look for low-hanging fruit. They look for kids on dating sites. They look for kids on Discord that's willing to flirt in the middle of a video game or share pornographic images in the middle of a video game with their buddy in the chat room. They look for somebody that's willing to take a little risque photo, even if it's just off the shoulder. It will go a bit further the next time. And the way these guys operate is they go on these mass audience apps like Instagram and TikTok and Byte and Like and Plenty of Fish and I can't even Tinder, Meet Me, My Laugh Out Loud, all of those dating sites. TikTok Thought. If you're on TikTok Thought, you're low-hanging fruit. There's no other way to put that. That's spelled THOT, by the way. That is the pornographic section of TikTok. And if you're on there, you don't have high self-esteem. You do not have high standards. And if you're going to do that, then you need to understand that you're easy to be violated. Now, I'm just saying, if not everybody on TikTok has low standards, you can be on TikTok and use maturity and use it right, and like that. But if you start taking chances, talking to strangers, you will end up being violated. And what is happening is the laws are changing to a point where we can't protect you. It's much more difficult to make a case now. Because once you've crossed that slippery slope, we had a case just 3 months ago where it's horrific. She went on a dating site. She was from Central California. She went on a dating site. She met one of our gang members over in Moval. They only have a couple, but she found one. Okay. And she ended up being sold into 5 different gangs, moved to 5 different cities, and we couldn't find her for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. That young girl never once understood what was about to happen to her. But what will happen is it looks like a boyfriend, and then you don't want to get him in trouble. And pretty soon, every now and then, he'll give you a black eye because you didn't make enough money. Or he'll keep you from eating, and he will tell you, if you don't make enough money, I'm going to hurt your family. So do you think that when law enforcement comes out and sits down and says, honey, are you being violated? She's going to go, oh, yeah, and he's a bad guy? It's not going to happen. We have changed laws now in such a way that we need to start earlier than ever before of educating our kids. Here's what I know about kids. They don't want to be violated. They want to be leaders. And they are looking for parents to give them the tools so that they can be empowered. And that is what Me and Kids does. I would ask you to partner with us. I really would. If you run a nonprofit or a foundation and you have the funding that you can help us, let us work together. If you run a corporation, let us work together. Maybe you will sponsor us. By the way, a Walmart gave us $1,500 last week, and I am very, very grateful for them doing that. I think it was the Walmart in Beaumont, and I appreciate that. It costs a lot. We've had so many missing kids lately, and I'll tell you, 1 out of 5 kids, I got that wrong, 1 out of 6 kids who run away will be a victim of sex trafficking in the first 48 hours. That's why we run Me and Kids Missing Kids. We need you to sign up. Go to meandkids.org. Give us your name. Sign up for that newsletter. And let us send you the flyers also so that you can do it. You can do the same thing by going to Me and Kids and hit like, and we will put them out on there. And maybe you'll be a Me and Kids team captain for Me and Kids Missing Kids, where in your corporation or your school or your church that you will receive that flyer and send it on to everyone you know, another 200-300 people. I just did that over at Active Church out in Yucaipa. And First Congregational Church of Redlands, thank you, Pastor Steve Davis, for being able to support parents when they're missing their kids and training your counselors to counsel parents. I'll tell you what, when you have a missing kid and you think it's being violated, that is the longest and hardest days of your life, and you need people to come alongside of you. I thank you for each and every one of you that listen to this show, that come along with Me and Kids. You can write to me at Opal at Me and Kids. I hope you'll take the time to research those bills that are coming through that I talked about. They're also will be listed on our website so that you can get the numbers and do the research on it. And if you have it in your heart to support our work, We would truly, truly appreciate it. You can either go at millionkids.org and send us a check at that P.O. box. Maybe you're a corporation who wants to run a fundraiser. Call me or email me at Opal, O-P-A-L, at millionkids.org. Or just simply go on that website and sign up. And thank you to each and every one of you that sign up to do it every month. It means the world to us so we can help other kids. This is Opal Singleton. I hope that you folks have a great week. Put your arms around your kids and your spouse and let them know you love them. Give them a big hug. I'll see you next Saturday, 3 o'clock. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology, coming to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock on AM 590, The Answer. Hey, I want to tell you about one of my heroes, Doris Anderson. She's a realtor over at Remax Realty in Upland. Her phone number, 951-733-8899. Doris has pledged $500 from every house she closes. There's a woman who supports an important cause.